the cryptocurrency environment in Namibia. I always I like such events. If they allow people to get um, both sides of the coins when it comes to asking about cryptocurrencies and what assets regulators think and what's really happening out there. So I think the bank's position is still online, and with that position, a lot of misconceptions were taken from it in terms of what we meant when we released that position, and the appetite of cryptocurrencies in Namibia, and the fact that there's more than one regulator in Namibia when it comes to financial services. So that's very key as well when we think about what the bank says. But without preempting your questions around cryptocurrencies, I think it would be better to see what type of questions or burning issues there are out there, and then we can address those as they come. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Any questions from the audience?
My question is very simple. What is the stand of the Bank of Namibia to uphold all the laws on cryptocurrency?
Engagement, I think 2 weeks ago, it was around fintechs, but then questions around cryptocurrencies always come up. I was also expecting more questions from the FIC. During the presentation was thorough enough that the bank is now the one to answer the question. So basically, the bank does not have any regulations or stance on cryptocurrency per se. So what happened in 2018, what the bank did was to look at the bank's laws and see where in our laws the cryptocurrency can be fit. Now, remember back then when the bank started work on cryptocurrencies, 2017 was a long time ago. Most of the countries in the world were trying to classify cryptocurrencies. Is the currency is an asset? And I think that was the biggest question when we talk about cryptocurrencies. And you see in most countries, they've moved to classify cryptos as an asset. For obvious reasons. It's mostly used for speculation purposes. So when we looked at cryptocurrencies, we did the same thing, right? We looked at the Bank of Namibia Act. It recognizes 2 currencies, which is the Namibia dollar and the rand. Right? And we looked at the functions of cryptocurrency and we saw that it cannot be that. We looked at the Payment System Management Act, which allows us to authorize payment instruments, and we looked at the purpose of why people are engaging in cryptocurrencies, be it for trading purposes, or yes, some of them use it for payment services, but not as much. And then we looked at the risks, and all this is just the legal framework around payment instruments in Namibia, and we saw that it cannot be that. Then we looked at exchange control, which is the licensing of exchange rules, which are tasked with licensing with exchanging fiat money, Namibian dollar and US dollar, Namibian dollar with what you have. And based on the features of cryptocurrencies, we saw that the exchanges that are licensed by Bank of Namibia can possibly not do that. So when you look at cryptocurrency and what it's used for, you will see that it behaves like an asset. People use it for speculation. In most countries, you will see that the focus shifted from central bank to the exchange commissions wherever these cryptocurrencies are being used. So the stance with regards to those avenues of the bank's position that I mentioned are somewhat still the same. What we're trying to do and what needs to be done is to see how do we properly classify cryptocurrencies or as people that are more using to say virtual assets or crypto assets. How can we regulate that as a country. I think what what started the chain of events and putting the bank on the spot is that we were one of the first, regulators in Namibia to speak about cryptocurrencies. Um, yes, we were receiving queries and probably rightfully so we did so. But I'm glad like what we've seen that we brought on other regions like Namfisa to see how we can accurately classify cryptocurrencies. And I don't know if you're going to get more questions, but there is still the issue of those that are involved in cryptocurrencies. I think that's where mostly the contention comes into say that what about us? Am I allowed to collect money from the public to invest on their behalf on an exchange? Um, can I do that? Can I not do that? What will the bank do? The bank freeze my account? And that's probably where we are. For an exchange, for example, I would not say that an exchange in Namibia is allowed. If it's allowed, who must license that? Because when we look at the exchange for no regulation, that's probably not the reason for that. Because exchanges that we know that the rules do not exchange assets for currency. If I have to classify crypto as an asset. You have other exchanges such as stock brokers and the likes. Can they be licensed? Can an exchange be licensed? Something like that? Perhaps not. How to accurately. So it's very difficult for a country like Namibia to regulate the Bitcoin. I'm not talking about the cryptocurrency. What people normally do is they regulate those that are engaging in Bitcoin. What the FIC as we call it, national asset service providers. So that's very important because when you're taking money from the public and say you're going to invest this money on an exchange, no one knows whether you're going to do that. You can take 80 million from the public and only invest 40 million in the wallet, right? And then the other 40 million you use it for a Ponzi scheme. Now, it's very difficult to know whether that's happening or not if you are not, overseen by a professional regulator, and that's what we're saying. And that's the work that's being done between board and officer to see how that can be done. The work is not to regulate cryptocurrencies. And I think that answers your question to say that, let's not punish those who want to do legitimate work at the at the expense of those that are doing it for illegal gains. So how do you differentiate between those? And that's why you have to register with the FIC when you engage in some of these things, so that we can tell who's doing legitimate and who's not. And I think that's very key because people have wallets on exchanges, and they use those wallets to attract money from the public to say, I'm going to invest this money in Bitcoin for you on my wallet. And it's very difficult to see whether they're going to do it. So we do hear what you're saying. I think the idea about the position paper of the bank does not, stop anyone from doing that per se. I think the vacuum is the fact that there's no potential regulator to license you to take money from the public and put it on an exchange on behalf of others. See, that's what some of these people don't want to teach you, or that's what some of these people don't want you to do. They want you to give them your money and then they trade on your behalf. And that's where the risk might be. Because we are saying that we are not sure whether that person is going to do that. So getting text from that, I do agree. If all these people are licensed as national asset service providers and they are identified, they can be taxed for purposes of doing business and getting returns. So that shouldn't be an issue. The YouTube issue we've addressed in various public areas. The Bank of Namibia, there's not a very regulation around getting your money from Google, YouTube, any third-party payment platform or e-commerce platform on the web. Evident from Airbnb. I mean, if you register now your house on Airbnb, you sell your house, or you rent your house online. There is no regulation to say that you cannot rent your house on Airbnb because Airbnb gives you your money, so the person that rents your house gives the money to Airbnb, and Airbnb gives the owner of the house the money. But Airbnb is not in Namibia. It's the same thing with YouTube. If you want to go on YouTube, so we had a similar query. I think it's about an e-commerce um, an e-commerce site, not site, but a plug that's on Google. I forgot what's the name. But people were asking like why are the regulations stopping us from getting money from some of these guys? There's nothing like that. If you go on some of their websites, they'll even tell you that we encourage innovators, YouTube content creators like you to approach us and say, can you please monetize content in Namibia? But one of the things that they will tell you is that we cannot do that because you are only like 5 of you in Namibia that are doing that. There's no business case for me to come with. So that creates another thought to say that what must we do as a business society to allow Google or YouTube to monetize your content? Because what they will need is they will need a bank in Namibia. So they need to start up with a bank to say, okay, you be our settlement bank in country to settle all these YouTube content creators in Namibia. If they do not want to do that, they can use service providers that are licensed in Namibia or that have agreements with banks in Namibia. So the options are there. That has nothing to do with any regulation of the Bank of Namibia. So it's something that we always want to clarify when it comes to YouTube and Google that, and perhaps it gets out there to YouTube and Google as well that Namibia has no restriction on PayPal, YouTube, Google to get funds. When people buy goods using Bitcoin. And also the question on what do we do if you see a shop that has a sign that says Bitcoin accepted here, and the difference between CBDC and cryptos, and whether we know that difference, right? So your first question on the unbanked, there's a very long answer and a very short answer to a question like this around unbanked because there's a whole the unbanked is a whole category of people, right? There's a category of people that can use technology, people that cannot use technology. And we are aware that Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies is a technology-based currency. So I can go on and on to mention the differences, but in terms of using cryptocurrencies in shops, I think that is what the bank's position is trying to guard against. Now, if you have a sign, first of all, that says Bitcoin is accepted here, it means that someone is responsible for doing that. Like I said in the beginning, Bitcoin itself is not an enemy of a central bank or of government, right? It's the people that are using it that need to be either regulated or be controlled to ensure that they do not manipulate or come up with Ponzi schemes around Bitcoin. Even the lady that's on the most wanted list right now of the FBI for running away with billions of money. Yes, that will probably cause the price of Bitcoin to go down, but Bitcoin as a currency or as an asset itself is not the one that falls. It's the people around it. It's like the same to say that when you say money is evil, money is not evil. It's you that's using it. That's So having a sign there that says Bitcoin is accepted here is trying to understand what that person is trying to do. Yes, Bitcoin is quite volatile that we have established. You will see in most countries where they are trying to accept Bitcoin, it's trying to move to a stable coin because that provides that type of assurance that once that shop accepts Bitcoin, when they wake up in the morning, they can still go buy stock with the money they took in. Because that can be a problem. If I sell you bread right now for 10 Bitcoins, and that's equivalent to me buying stock of 2 bread, But then I go to the bakery tomorrow or to the what do you call it, and I cannot buy stock with the Bitcoin you gave me because the price is now close to nothing. Then that's a problem, right? So what I don't know if you are aware of stable coins. That's one way of trying to ensure that Bitcoin can be used in such revenues. Um, so that's really my answer to that. So from a bank's perspective, what is trying to understand what the is trying to do, how they are allowing people to accept bitcoins, what the setup of that institution will look like, because that's very important, because there are risks around that. And then the difference between CBDCs and cryptocurrencies, I agree with you, there's quite a big difference, or there can be a difference. Some countries have introduced CBDCs that are not based on cryptography, and some are based on cryptography. And I do agree that when we say that a country is accepting cryptocurrencies or a country is brought up the CBDC, I think let's rather say the CBDC than say cryptocurrency because cryptocurrencies are more known to be of a private nature. Like the said dollar, for instance, I don't think people who are calling it cryptocurrency. Yes, it's probably based on cryptography and it's issued by the central bank, but it is still centralized in that regard to the central bank. So it's controlled by the central bank. Whereas if you look at Bitcoin, for example, there is no one that regulates or controls, the movement of the fluctuation of the Bitcoin currency. Apart from those that probably have a stronghold on it. The bank's position, whether that will change, will depend on the work that's currently happening between Nafisa and the bank. But then like I said in the beginning, let's look at, what is Bitcoin, first of all. What should be the role of Bank of Namibia if we look at the functions of the bank? What should be the role of an Nafisa if we, from an asset perspective or from an exchange perspective? In essence, what the bank's position is trying is not saying that what it means is that we do not have any objections in people engaging in cryptocurrencies. I think that's quite clear because we have not say arrested someone that owns cryptocurrencies. I think we can all agree that where you can get into trouble with the law is when you disguise behind what cryptocurrency stands for and taking public funds for Ponzi schemes. I think, and that's the difference, and that's probably why the company that cryptocurrency is registering with the FIC to get that insurance to say that look, we are doing business legitimately. Your money goes to the exchange and you make and you can withdraw from there or the case may be. So the restrictions were never to say that you cannot own cryptocurrency. The restriction is to say that do not take people's money in false pretense to say that I'm going to invest your money in cryptocurrency and then you don't do that, right? Also the position does not per se limit your use cases in terms of using cryptocurrency wherever you want to use it. Of course, there are boundaries in what you can use. You also have the option of directly managing your cryptocurrency. If you don't want to use a virtual asset service provider, you can go straight to your wallet or create a wallet with Coinbase or whatever the case may be, and do that. And also, it's very important to know that the world has moved to, like I said before, to this exchanges being seen from an exchange commission, regulation, and not really from the central bank. Because when you look at the boxes of what the central bank needs to do, you will see that there's very minimal we can do from a licensing, for instance, the middle assistance perspective. But like I say, the work with Manfisa will review more. And after that work has been completed, there might be a need to revise the bank's position because there's that perception that when we talk about cryptocurrencies, it's only Bank of Namibia, forgetting that we have another regulator in the form of FISA that's very much critical to the development or the future of cryptocurrencies in Namibia. So I hope that answers your question. Timeline is 2022, I cannot say. We have 5 months left to the end of the year. But rest assured that we are busy working on this subject matter. Thank you. All of these virtual currencies or these cryptocurrencies are foreign. We do not have a domestic cryptocurrency. So it's very important to benchmark and see what other countries are doing. And like I said, the work between Namibia and the bank will show what international best practices is and how we can, going forward, deal with the issue of cryptocurrencies. Then again, that's not where you need to make that distinction. When you say this industry, it's also the industry, you have the currencies themselves, and then you have those involved in these currencies, So that's also very important for the regulator to understand what do you want to regulate? Do I, as a central bank or as an officer, want to regulate Bitcoin? I think the owners or the developers of Bitcoin made that very clear that it's probably impossible to do that. So then you go a step further. What can you regulate as a regulator, as a bank or as a officer? So you have the exchanges, right? The exchanges are very critical accuracy. Then you have the third parties, because not everyone wants to open up a wallet. So you have that guy opening up a wallet and collecting a lot of money, putting it on the wallet, making money, and then giving back your money. You want to regulate that guy. Then you have the guy that's owning Bitcoin by themselves. They go on any wallet and then they buy just for themselves. And every time they get paid, they put money on there. They don't care about other people in Namibia. They just live on their own. You want to regulate that guy. So those are the different players that are probably out there that can be regulated. And these are the type of work that you need to do to understand where do you put the regulation and what risk are you trying to mitigate when you regulate either the exchange, the people that are taking money, or the individual buying cryptocurrencies on their own. Because like I said at the beginning, it's very difficult for me to say that I'm going to regulate Bitcoin. Right? Are you going to go on the blockchain and put a regulation there to say that that's impossible? I think. So you regulate people, you regulate entities, and those type of entities are going to be regulated. When we are done with this work, it should be clear to say that this is the regulator for this type of business, and these are the laws. And like what you are saying, they will have to be based on international best practices. Because like I said, we are all learning, and we will never be the first ones to come up with these regulations. So, and that's a public perception that should be there, because people always, let us do cryptocurrency. Yes, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But then you can either do it in two ways. You can do it on your own, or if you're going to take public funds, you must do it right. Because I can take your money here now and say I'm going to invest in cryptocurrencies. And then I tell you I'm going to pay you back after 2 weeks. And then I'll take his money and give it to you and then tell you this is how much we make in cryptocurrencies. That's what we're trying to avoid, right? And that's what the FS is trying to avoid. And that's where the regulation should go to. Not to stop you from doing what you want, but to ensure that when you take public funds, you are doing so, honestly. I think that's really where we are coming from, because we cannot regulate cryptocurrencies. I hope that's a bit clear.